Now I'm back in the classroom and we are going to do some writing together. We always think about topics. That's what we're writing about. So here's what we're thinking about. Topics I can write about connected to, the big idea is a time when the daytime or nighttime sky is an important part of a story in your life. That's what you're thinking about. And I'm going to be sharing my story with you today. The last time we met, we went over all these different questions. And one of the things I asked you to do was to really think about what your topic would be, the big idea, and think about who would be in the story with you and where the story would be happening. Today, we're going to learn how to use a special organizer called a story map to help you get your thinking down so that when you go to write the story down, you have your ideas already put in one place. So that's up next. If you don't have a pencil or a paper or something you can write on, even scrap paper, this would be a great time to grab it. So here we are. We are ready to use this organizer to help us. I'd like to show you how this organizer works to help you when you're writing a narrative text. First off, there's always going to be a title to any story that you write, whether that's going to be a narrative story or if you're writing an informational text. But characters, that's the who in the story. That's a really important part of any narrative text. Setting, that's where, like earlier, I showed you where my story will be taking place at Otsego Lake State Park. But it's also when, like the time and the place can also be part of a setting of a story. A goal. In a narrative story, oftentimes there's going to be a goal that's trying to be reached. Another thing that will often happen in a narrative story is some sort of problem that gets in the way of the goal. And then within the problem, all of the things that happen are the what is happening and the how it's happening and how we're feeling at that time. At the end, when we get through all the problems, this is called the plot. It's the action part of the story where all the big things happen. There's something called a resolution. Can you say resolution? Nice. That's connected to the word resolve. When you resolve something, you fix it so there's not a problem anymore. At the end of stories that have a problem, there's a resolution that solves that problem. And then afterwards, we often think in a narrative story, what's the theme or what's something we can learn from the story? So we're going to work through this right now and be learning about how you use this map to be able to write your own story. Okay, so here's my story. Now I'm going to put a title for now, but it might change later. Oftentimes, authors have to look at their stories and think at the end. So far, here's what I think I might call my story. But it's not that exciting or interesting. Whoops. Otsego Lake State Park Day. Because that's where we were. We'll see, maybe you can help me come up with a better title by the time you hear my whole story. Notice that every letter at the beginning of each word is capitalized. There's a capital letter for a couple reasons. These 4 words are the name of the place. They're proper nouns. But because it's a title, I also put the D capitalized. So read it with me. Otsego Lake State Park Day. Great reading. So we've talked about our title, and now we're talking about the characters. Characters are the who in a story. In the story that I'm going to be writing about, here are the characters. Matt, that's my husband. Logan, that's my son. Amelia, my daughter, and me. So I'm going to add this up for characters. The other thing that I wanted to make sure I named is that we were at a state park, so there were a lot of people at the beach. A way to talk about a lot of people that have gone to the beach and are spending time at the beach would be to call them beachgoers. Can you say beachgoers? Yeah, people that go to the beach. So I'm going to put that up here as well. I have my title. I have my characters. Can you say characters again? Great. And the characters are the who of the story. Great. Now we have our setting. Can you say setting? And let's read. The setting is the where and the when. You know the where for my story, right? We know that that is at Otsego Lake State Park. So I'm going to add that up here. That's my where. Now, as far as my when, this story happens in the summer. So the where is Otsego Lake State Park and the when is summertime. You'll notice on our map here, it asks about a goal. So my family's goal in going to Otsego Lake State Park that day was to cool off on a hot summer day. So our goal was to cool off and play. And that's why we were at Otsego Lake State Park that day. The next part that we get into is where kind of the heart of the story is going to come in for us. I'm going to tell you now that we did have a problem that came up in our story, and then we're going to go into our plot. This is where all the action of the story is going to happen. So let's talk about the what. Can you read that word? What? Nice reading. And the how. Can you say how? That's our next part. We're going to talk about what exactly happened, how it happened, and how we all felt at that time, at least in my family. You're now thinking about a story. Remember, you're thinking of a story that has to do with the daytime or nighttime sky in your life, and then you're going to follow the same steps I'm following. I'm just showing you how to do it with my ideas. Soon, it will be your turn to do it with your ideas. So let's talk about this problem. I'm going to tell you the secret. The problem in my story is this. A nasty storm rolls in. So here we are at the beach trying to cool off and play. And uh-oh, a nasty storm rolls in. So now we're ready to think about the plot. The plot is the action of the story. Can you say plot? Excellent. Can you say action? Well done. So action, we think like movement, right? Here's how we get started. We have to start with first. What happens first? Now I'm going to close my eyes for a moment and I'm going to picture myself at Otsego Lake State Park. I'm there with my husband and my 2 children. It's warm and it's sunny, and I'm picturing what happens as we get there. That's what's going to happen first. So it's hot. We're getting ready to walk down. I've got my beach bag. We have pails and we have buckets, and we set up our blanket on the beach. That is the first part of our story. So all I did this ahead of time. I jotted down some ideas. This part is not needing to be perfect. This is your organizer. I made it look really neat for you because you need to be able to read it. When you do it on your own, you just jot down any ideas that you have. You could even just draw pictures. Like you might draw a picture of a sunshine. You might draw a picture of a beach pail. You might draw a picture of towels laying on the beach to help you remember. And then maybe just write a couple of words. That's what writers do. They give themselves organized ways to think about what they're going to write about, and then they give themselves clues to help them along the way. So that was first. Getting there and we're getting all set up. Then, okay, this is how our stories go, first and then. So then, as part of my story, we're putting on sunscreen. We're getting goggles out. We start heading down to the water and we're like wading in, and it's a little deep, and we're pushing ourselves out there. We're laughing, we're playing, we're splashing each other. My kids are trying to get me wet, even though I'm not ready to get wet yet. I bet you might know what that's like, doing that to somebody else. We start just like jumping around and playing games that we like at the beach, like the game Red Rover we like to play. That's what happens next. Still sunny, having lots of fun. Great day to be at the beach so far. Next, I kind of look out at the water. And at the beginning of the episode, you saw me standing at the beach, and I looked behind me. If you remember at the beginning where I'm standing at that beach spot in front of the lifeguard station, behind me it started to get cloudy. Like I saw like really, really dark clouds, and I thought, I feel like we need to keep an eye on that because dark clouds usually mean what? Yeah, rain. And really dark clouds in summertime, remember we talked about the sky and the importance of the sky? When you see really dark, heavy clouds in summertime, do you know what often happens? Thunderstorms, right? So it was time to keep a really good eye on the sky in my story at this time. Said to my kids and my husband, check out those clouds, we better get going. And the kids were like, we don't want to go. I bet you can relate to that, right? Who wants to leave when they're having such a good time? But I said, we got to look at those clouds, you guys. I think a storm's rolling in. And that is what happened next. So first, then, next, and then. So this is when things start to get even a little bit more exciting in the plot or the action of the story. The wind started to pick up, right? So there I am. I'm picturing myself in my story, and I hope you're thinking about this too. Think about your story. Picture yourself. What did it feel like? What did it sound like? In my story, it starts getting windy. It starts getting, just more and more dark. I start getting a little bit more nervous, and then sand starts blowing. Now, our family's packing up, but I'm looking around on the beach, and no one else is packing up. Everyone else is just kind of hanging out, and we're like, well, maybe it's not going to come, but it's looking pretty bad. So we pack up our stuff. We're throwing stuff very quickly in bags. This was not a careful pack up. This was like, throw your goggles in the bag, quick, get a towel around you so we can get to the car. And then it starts coming really fast. So we start like running and heading toward the car. And that darkness is just settling in. Really getting to this big problem that a nasty storm rolls in, right? So here is all of that last part that I just told you. This was all part of the and then, the big part, the rising action, and the story where so much is happening. And now we're going to start to come back down into the finally space. And at one point during this part, my son Logan had run safely, but run off, and there was like a tree kind of near right behind my car. So he's over there. I've got Amelia, so I put her down. I'm grabbing her hand as we're running. We get to the car. We put the kids in the car seats. I go find Logan. I throw our stuff in the car. We're making sure to be careful because people are running all around us. We're trying to just make sure there's, nothing we can do to help. But it seemed like the best thing we could do was slowly get ourselves out of that parking lot. So we got in that car, got settled, and then we went, took a deep breath and went, we're safe. So that is the finale of my story that I wanted to share with you. So in the end, all of this brings us down to the resolution. Remember we talked at the beginning, how you resolve or fix what the problem is. A nasty storm rolls in. I told you my beginning, my middle, all the way to the end, and the resolution at the end. So we carefully drove out of the state parking lot, the state park parking lot to make sure we weren't getting anybody. We were watching for floats flying at the car, drove off, and then came the rain. The downpour, we're watching thunder and lightning, and we all just kind of went, phew, and felt nice and safe in our car that day. So that would be our resolution. Carefully drove off safely inside the car. And as you can tell, all these years later, I have a good story that I can write about to talk about that day. It will forever be in our minds. We're going to do this next part, the theme part. And that theme, the theme is when you're trying to figure out, is there a lesson or something that you can learn from this story or idea to hang on to? Well, if you think about the daytime and nighttime sky and how we're trying to think about the importance of them, can you think about an important lesson that you might learn from the story that I told you today? I I bet you have some really great ideas. Here's one of the things I was thinking would be a really good theme. It's really important to pay attention to the sky at all times. But the summertime, pay attention to those dark clouds when you're out and about, because you just never know when a nasty storm is going to roll in. Thanks for helping me with my story mapping process today. You're going to be able to download this yourself if you would like to make sure that you would like to use this type of a process. So you can go to michiganlearning.org and your families will be able to find this for you and download it for you to be able to use. Thanks for your help today on our story. Next time we meet, we'll take this and I'm going to show you how you take all your brainstormed ideas in this kind of an organizer and then start to actually write your story. Can't wait to see you next time. Wishing you a great day. And thanks for joining us. I'm Reed Ray Rohr.
This program is made possible in part by the Michigan Department of Education, the State of Michigan, and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. Additional support by viewers like you. Thank you.